Checo's win closes gap to Verstappen. Did Alonso highlight Monaco problem? It's a Monaco pool party!
Hey baby, you like my Speedos?
Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
It's Sunday, not Monday, the 29th of May. Thanks for joining us again here on the Late Night Race Review for the Monaco GP. I'm Dave Jericho, and with me as always, with the underwhelming excitement of a deflating brown balloon, it's Mr. Owen Scott. But now I want to welcome a new permanent member to the podcast, a man that's so incredible, with so much passion for F1, we thought about axing a certain member of the podcast. It's Mr. Isidro Gonçalves. On this week's episode, we take a look back at an unexpected action-filled Monaco GP and what it means for the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship. And we look forward to the next race in Azerbaijan with our predictions game. As always, your support for the cast is much appreciated, so get hitting those like and follow buttons on social media and get sharing with your friends. Now, it's time to hand over to Scotty and get on with the show.
Evening, lads. Let's jump right in and get the most interesting topic for me out of the way, the race start. What on earth was all that confusion about? Dave, can you explain to me why there was so much confusion around the rain and tyres, etc.?
Jesus, skipping the pleasantries, Scotty, today. Just diving straight in. Just straight in.
No kissing.
Yeah. Snorkel on, dive in. Do you know, I was ready to start this podcast with a rant about that race start. I was really, really annoyed. But there's been some information kind of come out since, which is not without its question marks. So there's a few stages to this. So the race control delayed the start on safety grounds. Now we had a sprinkling of rain when the rain was to start. When the race was to start. It was certainly enough to get the cars around for a lap or two on the slick tires, and it would have probably seen everybody dive in to the pits when the heavy rain came down. So apparently there was a lot of confusion between the two race directors, because we've two race directors now, which we had them sort of with sort of contrasting kind of decisions as to how the race should start. So we ended up going for some formation laps then behind the safety car. The heavy rain came down, and apparently then that caused a power outage at race control, which is why there was the delay of the start, which they're saying that's why the start was delayed. But that's nonsense, because the red flag would have come out anyway, because there was so much standing water on the circuit, like you couldn't have ran. So I'm not saying there wasn't a power outage, but that necessarily wasn't the actual only reason, because the rain was actually so heavy at that stage. But they're saying that there was a power outage then, which then led to us having a rolling start as opposed to a standing start.
Yeah.
So based on that, I suppose I can kind of understand what had gone on. Obviously, if a power outage, there's a power outage, but there was so many sort of conflicting reports coming out, having the two race directors trying to make that decision when both of them had a difference of opinion. That's not what we need. Like, that's nearly the opposite of what Michael Massey, okay, making a wrong decision, but at least he called it and owned it. Whereas now we have two race directors with two different opinions on how the race should have started.
Isidro, is it times like this that you miss Toto and Christian going live on Sky Sports to Michael Massey giving out about things and him talking back? What's the word I'm looking for? There was a bit of ambiguity because you couldn't see what the race directors were talking about. Do you miss the days when we could see that live on TV?
Well, it's fun to hear the shouting between the directors, but then again, I think from a professional point of view, it's better if those discussions go on the background rather than on the open public. Just for, I don't know, you never know what they'll say out loud in the heat of the discussion.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the fun part.
Yeah, that's what I want.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, we were all giving out about it last year, but this year now, I kind of want it back a little bit.
I wanted to hear the confusion that was going on. Like everybody, no one knew what tire spot, no one knew why the race was being delayed, no one knew anything, and there was just absolute chaos. So yeah, it would have been amazing to hear the radio calls going back, especially if race control had a power outage and they're just like, stop calling us, like the power's out. Like,
I imagine there'll be a few interns running around the hallways,
yeah.
passing the message,
Looking for a 13 amp fuse.
So there was a power outage, but that you're saying that's not necessarily why everything was held up. It was more to do with the standing water that was there.
Well, I think so. So I think in the series of events, I think the power outage happened. So when they went out on the formation laps, so when the race was delayed initially at the start because of a little dusting of rain, and they go out on the formation lap. Then when the downpour came, I think that's when the power outage happened. Right. So then that obviously led to the rolling start and stuff like that. But up until then, the actual initial start where it went out under the formation, that was two race directors with conflicting conflicting ideas as to how a race should actually be started. So yeah.
Interesting.
I think they should add the third director, just a mediator between two of them.
Just bring Michael Massey back for the crack.
Yeah.
What
you can't
was,
have a dive, have three guys in.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael Massey has been, I think we concluded, Dave, that he'd been moved to a different sector within the FIA, wasn't it?
The toilet section.
Yeah.
Scrubbing the jacks.
He was dealing with, I think it was Haas's new livery. Him and Mazepin had the crayons out, I believe.
So someone's going to go to the FIA cubicle where he's cleaning the toilets now and say, we're going to give you a promotion, Michael. We're bumping you back up to race control, but just to say, you're not there to make any decisions, really. You're just there in the event of a tie break. You're there to level the playing field.
Michael's time to shine.
Yeah, step up.
Okay, let's move past the start of the race, or else we'll never get to the end.
Yeah, let's get on. Let's get on with that. What actually happened?
we finally got underway, and it was a question of, say, what tires would be on, and kind of watching the track and how it dried out. And we went from, say, wets to inters to slicks, and while it seemed like Ferrari had control of the race, Red Bull played it just right with that overcut. Max and Checo getting ahead of Carlos and Charles, respectively, and putting them in the position to finish first and third in the end. Was this, Dave, say, a Red Bull tactics masterclass or a failure on Ferrari's part not to cover that overcut?
Oh, it was definitely a bit of both, I think. I think the Red Bulls knew the power of the intermediate tire. Ferrari, I mean, look, we'll be talking all through this podcast about the absolute train wreck of a strategy that they opted for. So yeah, I'll keep it short for this one. So my answer is it was a bit of both.
Yeah, I agree. It was a bit of both. Ferrari was too late to follow up on the Red Bull strategy. I mean, it's like they were not aware of what Red Bull was trying to pull when they brought both at the same time, and then they tried to fight back, but it was too late, and then they screw up with Leclerc and Sainz, and then Leclerc shouting.
But I mean, sorry, Scotty, go on. I was about to.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just about to say about Leclerc shouting there. There was confusion. What happened with Ferrari there, where he came into the pits, and then they were screaming at him to say, "Don't go into the pits. Keep on going. Keep on going."
Yeah, I think they were flying by the seat of their pants. Like, so what happened, I think, was so they realized when Perez came in, like they obviously go in with strategies, multiple strategies. Like I couldn't even tell you how many, but there's certainly going to be 5, 6, 7 strategies that they could possibly go for. That's why you always hear, like, plan A, plan B, up to plan D, and then or plan D plus 5 or whatever it might be. Yeah. So I think they had an optimal strategy for this race, and what happened was Perez pitting maybe threw that a little bit when he came in for the inters, and then I think Carlos didn't do them any favors when he sort of started shouting that I'm going straight for slicks, that he didn't want to go for the inters.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that just threw them ever so slightly to the point where, and this is something Ferrari do spectacularly well, is they shit the bed when something like this happens. When it comes to race strategy and you have to make, mission critical calls, on the spur of the moment, they are renowned for getting those decisions wrong. Like it's just something that seems to be within their DNA at this stage. So I think when that happened, like Leclerc was only out on the intermediates for a short period until Sainz then came in for his slicks, and then someone obviously thought, okay, let's get them both on slicks, and then sort of, I mean, at the last second sort of thought, hang on, the Inter is quite strong here. We could have Leclerc obviously go around again on the Inters and actually probably keep position, whereas as they instead made that call way too late and bring them both in. And what was worse is they were way too close together as well. So when they came in, like you saw from Leclerc's onboard, like he had to almost stop while Sainz was still in getting the tires changed. So it was a terrible mix up on the strategy. It really was bad.
Yeah. Cedro.
I think Ferrari lacked the balls to make the call before Red Bull. If Red Bull decide to just, well, let's try this if it works, and Ferrari wait two laps before they realize, well, Red Bull isn't okay, let's try our luck. And I think Ferrari lacked the ambition just to take the lead on the pit stops.
Yeah, I'd agree.
That what decided the race in Monaco. It was the pit stops, really.
And you think as well, there was a bit of panic as well that set in when they realized that Perez was so quick when he came out on the fresh inters, and they could sort of see, that they were going to lose track position at that point, and then they were trying to frantically come up with a strategy that was going to regain that track position back. And in the end, to sort of try and salvage one place, they ended up sort of scuppering two places.
After last week's race orders from Red Bull, it must have been quite satisfying for Perez today to take the win, and not be in a position where he had to give up the position to Max. It's another reminder, I feel anyway, and I've been saying this since the start of the season, that Perez is really up in his game this year.
Sure, yeah. If he didn't give up that position in the last race as well, I mean, he's up there. He could be a title contender, but I think they're still going to favor. I think even if he was to win, say, the next race, even if Max came second, but he creeped into Max's lead a little bit more in the next race, I still think they will favor Max in the team orders when it comes down to it. I don't think. I don't know at what point they might make the decision that they'll favor him. I think it will only be maybe if there was literally no other option, like, but that basically, any sort of giving places back to Max isn't going to do any good at that stage. But I mean, they could end up, ruining, if Max Verstappen wasn't going to win the world title this year, they could end up ruining a possibility of Perez winning the world title by sort of, chipping away at points in team orders, giving them to Verstappen.
Yeah. Cedro, what do you think?
Yeah, at the moment, if Perez wins another race with Verstappen second, then Red Bull will start thinking, what should he do? But like Dave was saying, I think Max will always be, I don't want to say favorite, but considering that Max is the current champion defending the title, I think that will bend to his side. If they have to sacrifice, it will be Perez second to let Max win the championship again, kind of back to back. Even if Perez is doing very, very well at the moment. And I think Red Bull doesn't want to be in the same position as Mercedes was with Hamilton and Rosberg, where they would have two pilots fighting aggressively within the team rather than with the other drivers. So Red Bull needs to be careful with that. They know what happened with Mercedes and Hamilton and Rosberg. I'm sure they don't want to do the same they don't want the same to happen with Red Bull and Max and Checo.
Yeah, and they've had some of this before between Ricardo and Max. So I don't think they're going to risk anything there. But Dave, Leclerc, I think he'd be devastated today with that P4 finish in his home race. And there was a bit of naivety on Ferrari's part today tactically. I know we've kind of discussed that already, but he really will be shattered by today's result, won't he?
Yeah, it was funny as he was interviewed afterwards. He was sort of saying he's not surprised, which is kind of sad, really, when it's your home race. But I think he said he's getting used to the bad luck he's getting. And after the qualifying that he had yesterday, I wanted to see, obviously, when Perez spun out and brought out the yellow flags, and the session then was stopped. He was 4/10, I think it was, up on his previous lap time. So the time he was about to put in there was stellar. So he's been on fire this weekend with pace. I think the race starts. I don't think the wet necessarily caused the issue. I think just how the rolling starts happen. The strategy from Ferrari, which we've obviously discussed, was an absolute disaster. And then also the restart then, because if the race had played out the way it was up until Schumacher and the red flag coming out on the restart, if they didn't still have the technical issues in race control, if the restart was able to start under the lights, which it obviously didn't, it went on a rolling start. But if it had started under the lights, then I think Leclerc might have had an option to try and regain places back. Possibly not for the race win, but certainly probably to a point where Ferrari had a decision to make then in terms of team orders and stuff if Sainz was still in front. But overall, look, it didn't pan out that way. That's just me sort of talking ifs and buts and whens. But look, P4, he's not that far behind Verstappen in the drivers' sort of title at the moment. So look, take it. He'll be here next year. But yeah, I'm sure it hurts, but like he said, he's probably getting a bit used to it now at this stage.
Yeah. Cedro, last week we had a strong P4 finish in Barcelona, and now a P2 finish this week. Carlos Sainz seems to be kind of shrugging off that blanket of bad luck that he had on. Do you think that he's starting to claw back some form finally and getting to grips with the Ferrari car?
Yeah. Well, it seems that the bad luck that Sainz had it passed to Leclerc, as it seems. But the improvements on the car and Sainz, I think they are paying back, and he's more confident and he's definitely doing much better. So I can understand that Leclerc may feel a bit nervous, as Sainz is only a few. It's still a lot of points, but all it takes is a few podiums to Sainz and Leclerc outside the podium, and then suddenly Ferrari might be in the same position as Red Bull, about having two pilots fighting to be the number one and probably fighting for the top position.
Yeah.
Well, Perez is only Sainz is only a race win really away from being back in the mix. Do you know, if he gets a race win and say Leclerc and Verstappen don't score points, that's how close it is, you know. I know that's a hypothetical, but I mean, that is how close he is. He's still not out of the hunt. So if he turns around this poor luck he's been having, he's still there. Same as, like I said, Russell and anyone in the top five there, I think is still in the hunt.
Yeah, the early performances by Leclerc over Verstappen and how the Red Bull was performing, do you think maybe we might have all got a little bit excited, little bit too early about Leclerc?
About Leclerc?
Yeah.
No, I think we've said this at the start. I think no, Scott. End of podcast. See you next week. No. I think we spoke about this on a previous podcast, where like we know the skills that Leclerc has, but what he does lack is that calmness of a more mature driver, the experience that comes with that. When I watched him even around Monaco in the wet, I was almost expecting, especially when it came to the chicane, and that's not just because he's gone off a couple of times at chicanes, but just even going into the chicane, I was more expecting to see him like the rear stepping out on the car or hitting the barrier, or taking the sausage curb too hard or something like that and spinning out, more than I was Verstappen. Do you know what I mean? I just had more confidence that Verstappen was able to keep his cool when he needed to. So that's the only thing. So I don't think we got carried away too soon. I think Leclerc is an absolute incredible driver, absolutely a world champion. Shit calls by Ferrari aside, I do think the only thing that would maybe be his downfall would be the lack of experience, the lack of maturity to make those quick decisions that would maybe be better to, say, take that second place as opposed to what he may do, which would be take the late lunge to try and get the first place and spin out or take him and whoever's in front out. That's the only thing. I think he does have that. I want to go for first place at all costs. So maybe that's probably could be his downfall this season. But otherwise, no, I think he's an incredible driver.
Yeah. It's I feel, for me, just to clarify, I got a little bit too excited about Leclerc too quick.
That's all right, Scotty. That's all right.
Within the first two races, I was like, oh my God, this guy is going to win the championship easily.
Join us on the excitement bench, the hype bench.
I am excited about him. But yes, yeah. It is a long season, as we're seeing. It can turn around within the space of one or two races. Everything can turn around, which is great. So I think even the talk of 1-2 drivers, and again, very, very early in the season, and we've a bit to go, I think, before we get there. But I mean, Mercedes won't be displeased with their weekend. It started off a little bit tricky. There was complaints from both Lewis and George about how the car was performing all the way up until qualifying. But a strong finish in the end. Where did they both finish? It was P5 and P8. That's a decent weekend for Mercedes, do you think?
Well, that's Russell finishing P5 or above in every race this season again.
Crazy.
So he's having that's great results for him. Lewis maybe not so much, but I mean the P8 again, given the circumstances, the track it was, I wouldn't fault him for coming P8. I still think, again, I think if he wasn't stuck behind, I don't think he would have been battling with Russell, even if he got up to P6. I don't think he would have been overtaking Russell anyway. Yeah. So, but you forgive him for the P8, but still great result. They're making moves in the right direction with that car. I think Baku coming up will be a good test, because we haven't really seen since Barcelona. We haven't really seen what that car can do now, because Monaco is maybe not a good place to see those upgrades working. So Baku should be good. Look forward to that.
Isidro, what do you think of Mercedes throughout the weekend?
And just before that, just a quick side note on the Mercedes, not the Mercedes team itself, but the Mercedes engine. They did quite well, because Russell, Norris, Hamilton, Vettel, they all had Mercedes engine on their cars. So overall, even though the Mercedes team didn't do that good, I think whatever Mercedes engine mechanics did, they did something good. On the race, again, I can understand Hamilton's frustration about you were saying that, oh, we are Formula One drivers, the rain doesn't scare us. But even that frustration, I think, like Dave was saying, Monaco is you don't have many places to overtake the car in front of you, and in this case, it was it was a bit of bad luck, not only for Hamilton but everyone that was just stuck behind Alonso.
Okay, with the amount of rain that we had, there was bound to be some crashes today. And apart from the Latifi and Stroll little tips on lap one, the only really notable loss of control was Mick Schumacher today, literally losing the rear of his car on turn 15 yet again, and splitting it in two. Is this a design feature on new F1 cars that once they hit in that position that the car splits that way, or what is this with the Haas cars?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of the. Well, yes, it is. It's a design feature. I think it's on all cars. The chassis, all the chassis are designed like this now, since Grosjean's crash in Bahrain. So again, I'm not 100% sure how or the actual sort of the design elements of it, but it's designed, I think, to stop the fuel cell being torn open. So it means that when there's an impact in the rear, it sort of snaps off the rear rather than putting strain, I think, on the fuel cell, which is, sort of next up in line, which is what happened in Romain Grosjean's crash, that, it sort of ripped the car in half, but in turn, not only ripped the car in half, but also ripped the fuel cell, and which caused the fireball. So by, snapping it at the rear like that, it's, that's what it's supposed to protect the fuel cell. But it surprisingly, I thought it would have stood up to a little bit. Now I know it was a hefty crash by Mick, but I thought maybe the rear might have held up a little bit more, because when I saw it, I think when the camera cut to it first, it wasn't live shots like of the accident. It was showing the aftermath of the crash, and I saw the rear of the car sitting there, and I was like, oh my god, he must have gone in here at some pace. And then you see he kind of actually lost it. He'd actually slowed down quite a bit before he hit the Tech Pro, and then obviously he sort of more so hit it with the sort of the left rear, and it tore it off. So yeah, it's a design feature, but I was surprised how easily it came apart.
And yet again, Isidro, Mick Schumacher torpedoing his way around a racetrack and ending up with the DNF.
Yeah, he's. If there's a pilot with the bad luck, that's definitely Mick Schumacher. He's not. It's been a couple of races not doing good, and the team and getting almost try to get a new car every time that he needs to go on to another race. It's not helping, but I too was surprised to see the car split in two. And but as I was reading more about it, was Grosjean accident that made this change in the cars, which is always welcome. At least the FIA is learning accident after accident to improve the safety. But yeah, I'm happy that Mick Schumacher was able to get out without any injury on that, because when you first see the car split in two, I mean, that's never good. But the fact that he was able just to get out and say, "Oh, at least I don't have to pay the bill for the fix."
Yeah. It's always a shocking sight to see a car split like that. You always presume the worst, especially when you don't see the crash live. But yeah, Jesus, delighted that he got out. He walked out of it pretty much okay.
It'll be interesting to see what implications this will have for Haas later on in the season in terms of the cost cap.
Yeah,
because I mean, already Horner came out and said that he reckons that teams might end up missing races towards the end of the season if it means keeping under the cost cap. I mean, Ferrari then came out and said that they won't be able to keep under the cost cap this year at all, but will continue racing and take the penalty or fines that come with that. But for Haas, though, I mean, they've fairly put their cars to the ringer. I'm pretty sure as the season goes on, Mick and Kevin Magnussen will have a few more sort of tips and stuff as it goes. So when you consider the crash that Mick Schumacher had back in Jeddah, they estimated that crash cost something in the region of $1 million. So whatever that is, 850,000, 900,000, whatever euros. When you consider that sort of amount for that accident, and then look at the crash today, I mean, it's probably fairly on par in terms of the damage that's done to the car. So, so that's going to eat into their cost cap quite considerably, I'd say. So that's another factor of how that might play out later on in the year if they start having accidents or keep having sort of accidents like that.
Yeah, there may be something that we'll have to discuss in a pit crew episode. We'll talk about the finances and that aspect. 'Cause that's interesting to see how far that cost cap will actually go for certain teams. But leading up to today, Dave, with the Monaco GP, there'd been a lot of talk about whether it should stay in the calendar, and this is obviously the final year of that contract. And that now that we've seen this season's Monaco race, what are your opinions?
Do you know, I think in the last couple of episodes of the podcast, I've said I think Monaco should probably be axed in terms of in favor of a track that's going to provide better racing.
Yeah.
But when the weekend sort of came about and I was watching the coverage and even the cars just going around the track, even at times when it got like towards the end of the race, when it sort of started getting a bit boring, you know, when everyone was on the slick tires and it was sort of just the merry-go-round, I was still kind of like, it's Monaco. Like there was something nice about, you know, watching a race at Monaco, and seeing the circuit. So I would hope that they will find a solution. And I have seen some people who are much more knowledgeable on track design than I am put forward some theories on how they could maybe improve the circuit, and which would sort of obviously mean using certain different streets around Monaco, but still keeping a portion of the existing circuit. So that might be an option, but they have to do something, because unfortunately, if it's going to retain, like, I know it was a bit exciting this weekend, but let's not be under any false illusion here that this was just a, you know, rain, a mess up with the race control, poor strategy from, this wasn't the circuit. This was external factors that created a bit of excitement, because once everyone had slick tires on, we had another Monaco race where like there was no change of position. Everybody was I mean, we had Fernando Alonso in 30. What do we have there? 33 seconds behind the car in front, who was, I think, Norris, was it? Yeah, it would have been Norris in front.
Alonso to Norris, yeah.
33 seconds. So from Alonso back to Albon is there was no overtaking, like I said. So there was one, like I said, there was 1 second, 1.2 seconds, or in some cases, under 1 second within DRS, and we had a stand. That's what a Monaco race is like. And people can say that's because the cars are getting heavier, this is because the cars are bigger. But I watched the F2 race. I watched the F2 sprint race. Actually, I didn't see the feature race, but I watched the F2 sprint race on the Saturday. And those cars are smaller than the F1 cars. And there was no overtaking going on in that race. So, you can argue that the size of the cars is an issue, and I'm sure it is a factor, but there's a lot more going on here than just that. Yeah.
Cedra, what's your opinion on Monaco?
I like Monaco. It's been one of those classic races, and you don't have many races with a tunnel like the Monaco has. And since the beginning of times, hearing the generation of cars after generation going through the tunnel, and just the different sound at different engines over the time. I like Monaco. It's a race that gets decided, I'll say, with the qualification on Saturdays, not in the race day, because it really matters if you get the pole position in Monaco. It'll be very unlucky if you don't finish first. Well, today was a bit different with the heavy rain, but usually if you do well in the qualifying, you'll be doing well in the day, because it's very difficult to overtake, especially, as they will say, cars are getting bigger and wider, and the track is still the same as it was 30 years ago. So I don't want to see Monaco go away, but if they can make a few changes to make it more interesting, and don't just let the qualification decide who will win the race on Sundays, I'll be up for it. But removing Monaco, there's a bit of magic and history in those tracks.
But how long are you going to keep the? And I'm all for not removing the history of Formula One, and that's what I'm saying. When the race weekend comes about, it's amazing to see Monaco there. But I mean, we're effectively just calling it an exhibition. Other than the qualifying, like say, the qualifying is where it's at, but it's an exhibition race nearly at that stage.
I think Monaco, it's a race for the strategy of the teams rather than the skills of the pilots. Of course, the skills are important. The pilot in that day, we don't want him to crash, but it's the strategy that the team decide that will be important. I think it's maybe just a race for the team strategy rather than a race for the pilots.
But with the new owners, who are all about the show, hence the push in America and the drive to survive and all that type of stuff, it's not going to cut it with them. And I can't imagine they're going to have too much loyalty to the history, even though I'm sure publicly they will say that. But it's all about money at the end of the day.
Well, I'm sure Monaco has the money to say, well, we want to stay.
Well, they haven't paid anything, I think, up until they've had a sort of a free ride at the in terms of the contract fees that are paid.
Yeah, it looks like it's more FIA that needs Monaco than Monaco needs the FIA money.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I just hope that they do some alteration and it does stay. I mean, I love Monaco being there, but if there's no alteration, it's a slog every season that this race comes up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the contract talks, or the contract being up now this year, something's gonna have to be done.
But the contract talks aren't going well, apparently.
Yeah. So I mean, something will happen regardless coming into next season. So time will tell on Monaco. But I think we can all agree that we'd all like to keep it there in some form. But yeah, how it goes forward, we shall see, I guess.
Just for the rents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they should just run a hose throughout the whole track and just have it wet all of the time, like a big water slide.
I heard someone mention about, I think it was Martin Brundle saying about, would it be interesting having Monaco as a night race?
Oh, that's be interesting.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Would be interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as I say, we'll see. So today, Dave, before we get to our predictions, we just want to have a quick little run through the drivers and the constructors, just so we can sum that up going into the next race.
Are you asking me, or
do you want to take it from the top on the drivers? And I'll
yeah, all right. I'll go through the drivers here. So our current standings after the Monaco GP, then we have Max Verstappen on 125. Second, we have Charles Leclerc on 116. Sergio Perez in third, 110. George Russell in fourth on 84. Carlos Sainz in fifth on 83. Lewis Hamilton in sixth on 50. Lando Norris in seventh on 48. Valtteri Bottas in eighth on 40. Esteban Ocon ninth with 30 points. Kevin Magnussen in 10th, 15. Daniel Ricciardo down in 11th on 11 points. Yuki Tsunoda on 11 points in 12th. 13th, we have Fernando Alonso on 10 points. Pierre Gasly in 14th on 6. 15th, we have Sebastian Vettel on 5 points. 16th, we have Albon on 3. Lance Stroll on 2 in 17th. Zhou Guanyu in 18th on 1. And then Mick Schumacher, Nico Hulkenberg, and Nicholas Latifi have a big fat goose egg between them.
Isn't it funny to look at that those standings and see Nico Hulkenberg above
Ahead.
Latifi?
Yeah, I know. That's
funny.
Great.
I like that. Okay, just run through the constructors there. We have Red Bull Racing at the very, very top of the standings with 235 points, and Ferrari just behind on 199. Third, Mercedes with 134. McLaren in fourth with a 59 points. Big old gap between those two there. Alfa Romeo with 41 points, largely from Valtteri Bottas's performances this year, even though I'm quite down on him usually.
Yep.
Alpine on 40 points. AlphaTauri on 17. Haas F1 team at 15 points, which they would have been delighted with last year, but I think they'll be a little bit disappointed with this year. Aston Martin with 7. And down at the bottom with his lovely flaming red hair, the Williams with Albon scoring there only 3 points.
Geez, looking interesting.
Yeah. So will we have a look at our predictions for Monaco?
Yeah.
And then go for our predictions for the next race then after that. So how do we do it then this week? There's 3 of us.
All right, we'll just let's I don't know who called out theirs. I'll fuck it. We'll just go in order. I'll call out mine first.
Okay.
Because it was an absolute shit show for me. In fact, it was an absolute. All right, yeah, it was
For
a shit
everyone.
show. Yeah, yeah, for everyone. All right, so my top 3, I had Max Verstappen taking the win, Perez coming in second, and I don't know what glue I was sniffing, but Hamilton coming in third.
That was an interesting one. So, needless to say, you have no points there whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give you mine. Number 1 had Charles Leclerc, and that was looking good for a while until they fucked up the pit stop. Max in 2, which didn't happen either, and then Russell in 3rd, which could have happened, but it did not. So again, duck
A
egg.
goose egg.
Yeah, I want duck, not goose. Isidro, what were your predictions?
Oh, very bad. Was Leclerc for the first position, Max Verstappen second, George Russell third. Nothing happened. Verstappen came third, but
I think is this the first weekend that we haven't guessed a single position in the top 3 between anybody.
I think we've had that before. Oh no, between the 2 of us, no. No.
Yeah, like nobody has got a single position. Yeah.
Clean slate, baby.
Oh yeah, in for the win.
So no points for anyone so far. All right, Dave. What was your flop then?
All right. My flop, which I should nearly claim this as a flop, but look, under the rules of the game, it's not. Yeah. Charles Leclerc with a DNF crash. Yeah. Still technically a flop for him, but it wasn't a flop in the context of this game.
Yeah. So I went something similar. I said that Sainz was going to have a DNF crash, and he nearly did. Did you see the save?
Yeah, I thought that was it.
Save.
Yeah, as he was. I don't. Was that live actually on TV? Did
it was. I had to rewind it.
Yeah, I was very excited when I saw that, and then he just managed to pull it back again. But a fantastic save. There was another save as well, actually, wasn't there?
Joe, coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah, that was lovely.
Which was probably better than Sainz's because he was coming downhill out of the tunnel and probably at a higher speed and managed to save it. So, but sorry, I won't take away from your Sainz moment.
Yeah, no, fantastic save by Sainz anyway. So no points for me there. He did not DNF crash. What about you?
It was Hamilton DNF crash. That didn't happen either.
We're mad for crashes. The rain pushed us towards that.
Well, that's another clean slate.
We should just stop playing this game completely.
Yeah.
All right then, Dave. What was your surprise?
Norris P5.
Oof. Didn't happen. He got a P6.
Yeah.
I still think, given the circumstances of this, I should get a point. Considering, call out yours, please.
Mine was Norris P4.
So I think I should get a point for that for being closest to the result. But I'll let Isidro decide as he's well, actually, he's part of the game now. But he's joining late, so maybe he has.
Yeah.
No. It
has to be on the money.
Yeah. Otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I'll take
Tough.
It's like a
Stern,
bet.
But fair.
If you bet it's that position, you cannot go back to the bookmaking and just say, "Oh, look, I was close enough."
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. That's how can you argue with that winning smile and fantastic hair?
I think if I hadn't have called Norris also, I think you might have got away with calling Norris as your surprise and getting a point there. You wouldn't have had to have given a position. And you
No,
would have,
because Norris did well the week before. We were saying you can't just say like Bottas or Norris or someone who regularly
Oh,
comes in
is right.
P10 and
Yeah,
just say, oh, because they came in P10, he's my surprise that did well. So if someone comes in the side of P10 regularly, then you have to give your position. So
okay, yeah. So on the money there. Okay, so Isidro, what was your surprise?
Don't let
My
us down. We're on a clean slate across the board, Isidro.
My surprise was Daniel Ricciardo P6.
Hey!
Oh,
Pack
no.
of losers.
Oh, this is unprecedented. So, I mean, no one gets any points. No one moves anywhere. The standings still are Dave is on 4. I am on 2. And Isidro, you're on 0.
So, yeah.
Out of 15 guesses, we didn't get a single one. Like,
That is
considering
crazy.
there's 20 cars on the track, you would think we'd have got at least one of these right.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
All right. Well, let me. So who's going first? Well, we're going just in order then. Same order, and I'll call out my predictions for Baku, Azerbaijan.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do that.
All right. We just all do our top 3 and then all do surprises and fly up.
Yeah.
All
that
right.
works.
Okay. So I'm going a bit safe this week. I nearly had a knee-jerk reaction, but I pulled it back a bit and I've gone Leclerc first, Verstappen second, Perez third.
Right.
My knee-jerk reaction would have been putting Perez in first.
Yeah.
But I cooled the jets.
Okay. Do you want to give a reason, or will we just give our?
I don't think I have to give a reason for the top 3.
No.
The reason
Okay,
is he came in the top 3.
Okay. Okay. All right. My predictions for top 3 are Verstappen 1, Perez 2, Sainz 3. No Leclerc. All right, Isidro. What's your top 3?
My top 3 is the same as you on Max Verstappen,
I was blunt to the point.
Sergio Perez, and Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I think Leclerc is still on the bad luck.
Shaky.
Do you not think it's just Monaco? Like his bad luck is Monaco.
I think it's still too early.
Oh.
No, I think Leclerc's gone. That's it. That's the last race that he's going to
see. His season's over, is it?
For the season.
Yeah.
He's done in my head.
All right. Who am I to argue with popular opinion?
The noobs have spoken.
All right. All right. Well, I'm going to go with my flop then. You're going to hate me for this one, but because I'm given a reason for it, maybe I'll get away with it. So my flop is Latifi.
Boo!
wait.
Boo!
wait. I know. But I'm throwing the chips down on a crash.
That'd be a surprise.
No, it's not my surprise. It's my flop. All right. Do you want me to call which half of the race he crashes out on? Does that work?
I mean, like,
why is that a flop?
Would you really be surprised if? Oh,
no,
yeah,
it's a flop. It would have been a good result for him if he finishes the race, but if he crashes out, it's a bit of a flop. No, he finished Monaco in 15th, no less.
Well, how long has it been since he's crashed? He did crash in Monaco,
crashed in Monaco.
but crashed out of the race. This doesn't seem like a flop to me, Dave. I don't know.
All right, do I need to think of a new one then?
No,
yeah,
I'll tell you what.
He always a flop. I mean,
so is Latifi? Are we now ruling Latifi out of any selection for the rest of the season, unless it's a surprise?
for flopping anyway.
Yeah.
Well, go
Also,
a bit more precise with it then. So be a little bit more precise about your flop.
Jesus, you're really nailing me on it then. All right, Latifi crashing.
What curve?
What?
what curve in the circuit?
I can aim the corner on the lap. If he crashes out on that corner in the lap, I think there'd be an inquiry into this podcast.
I'll tell you what. Which JCB will pick up his car?
What
If you
colour
can
will the
predict that.
JCB All right, I'll go Latifi, a crash, and a third variable for.
Corner 5, lap 23.
Can I go?
57.
Can I go? Fuck me. Can I go? If I just call the first half of the race, does that narrow it down enough?
Yeah, well, yeah. First half or second half of the race. Yeah, go on.
All right, I'll go with
first.
Yeah, I go with first because if he's still going by the end of the race, like he's probably on autopilot at that stage.
Well, I mean, we saw the season finale last season. That doesn't exclude.
That's probably
him from
why
crashing.
Williams has installed an autopilot feature.
Yeah. Okay. So first half of the race, Latifi crash.
That's terrible. Like, if I'd known I was going to have to do that now, I shouldn't have poxy gone with Latifi. I thought Latifi in a crash was enough to keep the judges at bay.
Don't worry. I'll be surprised if it goes past 10 laps.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good show. Yeah.
All right, Scotty, give me your flop.
All right. My flop is Pierre Gasly, and I'm going to say engine failure. I'm going to be precise about it. Engine failure, not a DNF crash. His engine is going to fail.
Engine failure. All right.
That's a pretty precise call.
Jesus, are we getting too precise here with the flops? Like, but I think on Gasly you could have just gone with a DNF. I would have accepted that. So crash, engine failure, whatever it might be. I don't think, like, I know you've fucking screwed me on the fucking Latifi one, but I'm going to be fair here. I'll be the bigger man here and say you can just put in a DNF on that one. I don't think you have to narrow that down to engine failure because that's.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, he hasn't been performing particularly well, but I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I think a DNF on that is fine.
Okay.
He doesn't exactly have a massive history of crashing. Like.
Yeah. True. Yeah. True.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Isidro, there's been two fairly controversial choices here. What have you got for your flop?
Lando Norris.
Jesus. All right.
Outside top 10. Finished the race, but outside top 10.
Outside top 10.
Okay.
He's been doing well so.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel cheated if Lando Norris comes 11th. And I've had to predict the first half of the race for a Latifi crash. I'm going to feel really unjustified if Isidro gets a point on that one. All right. Here's where I go all in. My surprise. I'm gonna. This is why I should have got away with my Latifi crash, given what I'm going to do for my surprise.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with Schumacher.
Ooh,
with a points finish.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm happy with that one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Okay. What's your surprise?
My surprise, and I'm really going to go outside of the box on this one.
Oh Jesus.
Is
Daniel Ricciardo.
No. Latifi top 10 finish.
For fuck's sake. You might as well just take the 0 now.
Now, your reaction justifies how we reacted to your surprise. It's probably not going to happen. But yeah, I'm going to say
no. The difference is yours probably isn't going to happen. Mine probably was going to happen, but you made me pick which half of the race it's going to happen in.
Yeah, Latifi top 10. If that comes off, I want fucking 2 points.
Do you know what? I'd nearly give you 2 points. If Latifi gets top 10, let's put a little note here.
Yeah, 2 points.
Wonderful.
If Latifi gets top 10.
2 points if Latifi gets.
This is that part of the night where I'm going chips
10.
all in.
Oh, yeah.
Red 23. Let's do it.
So if for some reason Latifi is listening to the podcast, we can't go on you.
Yeah, give incentive. All right, Isidro, the last call of the game.
Pierre Gasly, P6.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's big.
that's a big move.
Yeah.
Hang
We're
on a
going
second,
bold this week.
He did well in Monaco, considering.
Did he though? He finished 12th.
Well, I mean, look at the race.
Well,
It's-
that's true. P6 though.
I blame Alonso. If it not for Alonso, Gasly would be there.
The human bottleneck.
Yeah,
The Gasly result was largely, or his maneuvers were largely to do with the tire setup. Isn't that right?
yeah. He was when he was doing his overtakes, he was on he was on the intermediate tires. Everyone else was still on wets that he was overtaking and wets that were going off. But yeah, I mean, AlphaTauri. I mean, this track is a combination. I mean, you've got a lot of good straights, power, but a lot of sort of slow speed corners as well. So, Jesus, I don't know. Does that suit AlphaTauri? Well, it will be a
why not?
surprise anyway.
Yeah, that we'll all be surprised, even
We will
AlphaTauri.
Although I'm not giving you double points for that, though, if it comes off.
No.
It's a bold call, but it's not Latifi bold.
Yeah, it's more reasonable than
Yeah.
having Latifi in the top 10.
My man, you can
My
do
man.
it.
Right.
We make fun of Latifi, and Baku will see 1-2 for Williams, 1-2 for Aston Martin.
Yeah.
And everyone on the pit wall has to dye their hair red if that happens. Everyone.
Everyone. Yeah, exactly. Right, that's it for this week's episode, folks. We'll be back next week for a Pit Crew episode. As always, if you want to get in touch with your own questions, comments, or corrections, send them on to feedback@latenightracereview.com or anywhere you find us on social media. Until next week,